There we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Kong Family Show. Today we're meeting with Bryan Parker, who lives down in Florida, who is a truth seeker galore, and he's trying to help get the word out about what's going on with this virus. And quite frankly, I've learned some really amazing stuff that I'm going to be sharing out here today and tomorrow, and that kind of stuff from Bryan, things that he has shared with me that are extremely compelling. And so the big thing for us right now, kids, is we need to get the truth out there. The only thing that is going to save us from this so-called virus is the truth. We have got to educate people about this most ginormous fraud in the history of mankind. I mean, literally, there's never been anything so fraudulent. I've always said that the Federal Reserve Corporation is the biggest fraud in the world, but the truth is, not anymore. This is the biggest fraud in the world right here, man. I mean, we are literally being had, kids. We are being had in such a big way. They've literally shut 6 billion people down. And it's amazing to me that they've been able to do this so fast. And it clearly shows the power of the media. It clearly shows the power of the government, and it shows literally the incredible gullibility of the American populace, of the world populace. And all the media has got to do is get up there and start regurgitating something, and all of a sudden everybody's terrified out of their britches, and they're more frightened of dying than they're interested in living. And so it's really crazy. And so we've got Bryan on the show today with us to enlighten us a little bit and bring some solid truth to the equation so that we can get this truth out. And I'm urging everybody once this is up to get it out there, get people's this information so that people can start educating each other. And so Bryan, good morning, buddy. How the heck is everything down there in Florida?
Everything is actually pretty normal. I mean, there's a lot of businesses shut down and things like that, but and traffic's a little bit later than normal. But everybody kind of seems to be just going about their lives as much as they can. You um, I've got a friend of mine who just did a trip through the Northwest area, and he started in the Southwest and up through the Northwest and back down. And he was talking about the different towns that he went to and things that he saw. And different communities that he could tell they were just so much more brainwashed or in control mentally, than others were. And it's really sad. I mean, myself, if even a year ago you told me that something could happen, such as, virus wise or anything like that, that would cause, grown tough men, and smart educated women to be walking down the streets wearing a diaper on their face, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, "You're crazy. There's no way." You know what I mean? And today, you even see people driving in their vehicle, wearing a mask. It's like you're in your car. You're you're not even with anybody else. You're by yourself. Why are you wearing a mask? And it just shows that this battle for the mind has been won. It's really been won. And that's the one battle that has always existed since the beginning of time. It's the battle for the mind.
Yeah.
And, so that this whole, um, I don't like really using the V word because really it's a boogeyman. That's all it is. It's a boogeyman.
Yeah.
And we've had boogeymen, all through the ages, from Pearl Harbor to a Tonkin event to 911. I mean, there's always a boogeyman out there. And this is just the boogeyman of the day, the flavor of the day.
Yeah.
And it's sad that, well, what happens, you have to understand the human mind. Um, and I just wanted to also open and say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a virologist. If anything, I've got a doctorate in deception because the more study and research I do on things, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought it was this way, but it's this way. Everything seems to be the opposite. And we've had this game of rope a dope played with us all along, constantly. Uh, Look at the left hand, while the right hand whacks you. And with all of these things, it seems like if I've learned one main thing, that is whatever is in mainstream media, whatever narrative is being pushed, you know one thing first off, that's not the case. There's something else behind it. There's something else going on. So you have to ignore that and go and search for what's really happening and what are the underlying factors, because there's always underlying factors. No situation ever occurs for just one reason. There's always several, at least two or three different things going on uh, as an end result or the direction they want to move in. Whether you want to call it the Hegelian dialectic or whatever, there's multiple purposes for everything that happens. Um, so let's look at this boogeyman, okay, and what this boogeyman really is. Um, I went online, I started looking up peer reviewed white papers and reading different things on it. In fact, I showed you a photo yesterday, JJ. Said, "Does this look familiar?" And it was a so-called virus, okay, or a boogeyman, but it wasn't from a human; it was from an animal. Oh wow, gee, the same exact looking thing exists. And just to show people, I think a lot of people have seen. Um, this is my proprietary artwork, so yeah, I can show this under copyright. But this is the picture that pretty much everybody's seeing. This is what this boogeyman looks like. And like I said, so I went and started reading some peer reviewed papers, and I found out that what doctors write about, a lot of them, and what they talk to each other about isn't the same as what they say when they're in front of the camera. Even this Dr. Fraudsi, oh, I'm sorry, Fauci, the things he says on camera are not the same things that he's writing about on white papers between doctors. And it might only be the day before he'll be saying one thing, and then he comes on TV and he's there with Mr. Trump, and he's saying something completely opposite, polar opposite. And you kind of wonder, what do these doctors even think of each other when what's happening in the outside isn't the same as what they're talking about on the inside?
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems really is the medical establishment itself. And that it always seems to be the situation with everything. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, you know.
Yeah.
And these big establishments, these medical establishments, um, you have to realize, for one, they're there to make money. And that's one of the things I say about people's news sources and where you get your news and information from. Do they exist, one, because they care about your well being and your knowledge? Or two, do they exist to make profits and to build their company?
Yeah.
And when you realize that it's number two that they're operating under, that's their platform, then you have to also realize that they're not going to be giving you exactly what you need to know.
Yeah.
And I was going to mention earlier, we have to realize how our noggin works, how the human brain works, because there's one main thing that it operates the same way with everybody, and that is our fight or flight mode. And we are always looking for keeping our eye out for what can hurt us, always. And that's one of the reasons why the news is so popular and why they put so much negative stuff on the news, is because that's what people want. Your subconscious wants to know all this stuff so it can look out for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we gravitate, unfortunately, to that. And fear is the lowest vibration. That is the lowest vibration, and it's very, very harmful. Um, these vibrations and frequencies control everything. Our whole environment is made up of frequency. Grass is green because of the frequency it vibrates at. And the sun, people are talking about, getting sun and stuff like that to try and help with your health, which is very important. And it's not just the vitamin D that you're getting, but there's frequency that you get that at a molecular level can make changes in your body.
Yeah.
Um, Give you an interesting example actually of the sun. Um, I was doing a study on colors and where colors come from and how they're made, and it really takes you way back to like the Egyptian times. And
What was that you said? You did a study into what?
colors,
Oh, colors. Okay. Uh-huh.
yeah. And purple was probably one of the most expensive colors um, way back, and that's why like the royalty used purple and things like that. And to get it originally, they would glean a substance from a particular snail. All right, and once they gathered that, um, it would be, and I've seen this done. It would be blue. It's blue, but it doesn't automatically come out blue. It has to be taken out and put in the sun for about 10 or 15 minutes. In its original state, it's purple, and they can use it as purple. But if they take it out and put the liquid in the sun before they use it, it turns to blue. Same thing happens with beet juice. You know how beet juice, your hands are all bloody red and stuff from cleaning them. Um, well, if you take that beet juice and put it in a little bit of water and put it out in the sun for a day or two, it's going to turn to a violet color, instead of that deep red. And so the frequencies make a big difference on our body. And the frequency of the things we put into our body, that's really what it's all about. That's really what's having the biggest effect. And anyway, I was mentioning these establishments, and people need to realize with the medical establishment, the number one and two victims of the medical establishment that I found, and this might surprise some people, but the biggest victims of the medical establishment is first doctors and second nurses. And let me explain why. Imagine you are at work and you've got one boss that says to do one thing, you got another boss that says to do something else, and it's like, it's frustrating. How frustrating would that be? People need to realize that in the medical establishment, on the average, there is 16 administrators for every one doctor. The administrative side is massive compared to what we actually see in the hospital.
Right.
And for the same reason, it can be equally frustrating for the nurses as well. And, you even look at their pay, and because it's a business, they're there to make money. I don't care if it's supposed to be a nonprofit hospital or whatever. Nonprofits are the biggest money makers. Um, but you see doctors and nurses pay levels, you know, they kind of stay at a flat line almost. But you look at the administrative side and it goes up, spike, up, up. They're making more and more. And it's because they're creating, and that's why there's 16 to 1 as well. And they're creating all these little subgroups and things. Oh, we need to do a study on this. Oh, we need to do a study on that. We've got Dr. Gengli, and she was doing a little study on bats, and she was getting money. Actually, I've seen numbers from 2.7 to 3.7 million dollars that she got from the U.S. And she was originally, prior to 2014, working with U.S. doctors. And what she was really doing is she was, how would you say it, militarizing medicine. That was the goal. And I think it was about 2014, 2015, the DHS thought that what she was doing was kind of dangerous, and so they pulled support. But I believe the support was reinstated by that particular administration about 6 months later. And but during that time, she was focusing her work mostly there in Wuhan. Um,
Now
and
she's the
I think one
gal.
of,
Isn't she the gal that has basically been turned into the patsy? That she's the one who's being blamed for creating this whole thing. And we were
right,
we were having we started into a smidgen of discussion about that yesterday, and I definitely would. I'm definitely interested to hear what you have to say about what you know about her. And and what's going on. I got a message from one of my Facebook friends last night asking me if I had heard about this doctor that, they've found out that she's the one who did it. She's the patsy, whatever. For me, I always say that whoever it is they're blaming for it probably is the person that really has the least to do with it, or somebody that's just following orders and doing what they're told to do. And then they get all the blame, and the people behind the scenes, of course, don't get any blame. And everything goes on as normal, right? Is that the
Right.
case in her situation? Is that what we're looking at, kind of?
Yeah. The blame was that the virus had leaked from there. On there's a Dr. Ebright. He's a molecular biologist, and he made kind of a polite statement about that in her regards. And he said, well, he said lab accidents aren't necessarily a conspiracy. He said they happen, and he was kind of polite about it. He said it's just simply a lab accident, and kind of moved on from there. And the things that she was involved in, really, and I mentioned Dr. Fauci earlier, and this whole thing is gonna circle right back to Dr. Fauci again in a very interesting way, because what she was really working on was taking a virus, putting it into mice, and working on ways to engineer it so it could be put into humans. Now, I have read stuff from multiple doctors that say that engineering a virus, um, excuse me, is basically a joke. It's an impossibility. And I think by the end of this conversation, people will understand why that's an impossibility. But that's the claim, is that that's what she was doing. And she was working on multiple sequences, three basic sequences, okay, um, uh, proteins and different things with this whole virus situation to try and weaponize it, really. Now, people need to realize that this lab that she was at, it's the BSL-4 lab. Um, and the BSL-4 lab, that's the highest ranking lab for pathogens. And it's there in uh, was the Hubei province there near Wuhan. Now, that's not just the only place where that exists at. There is another very serious lab doing the same kind of work right now, and that's in Maryland. It's there at the base in Maryland. Trying to remember the name of it. Fort Detrick. Fort Detrick is the base. Doing the same. It's a mirror situation, and that's why a lot of doctors were kind of blaming her, is because they knew what the security was like there at Fort Detrick's at the same exact lab that kind of mirrored hers, and they saw how there's a lack of protections there, and so they figured, hey, well, that's probably the same situation as what was experienced over there. Now, there's something about this boogeyman that I kind of want to explain to people, because there's the argument of whether viruses are real, whether viruses are not real, where they come from. And I remember I've thought many times in the past, um, when, say, winter comes and it'd be flu season and things like that, and people, oh, I caught the flu virus, I caught the flu bug. And I always kind of stopped and thought to myself, you caught the flu bug. Okay. My question was, where did this bug exist for the previous 9, 10 months of the year? Okay. And you're finding doctors now that will tell you over and over a virus is not alive. It doesn't have the properties of life. Okay. It's really more of a toxin, uh, which is really what it comes down to. And so, why is it that these things sprout up at a certain time of the year? Well, if you go on Google Earth and look at weather, Okay, you're going to see the different colored bands uh, across um, across the earth. And if you notice, in the yellow band and just to the top of it, getting into the green band, start looking at those cities that lay in that band. You're going to find all of these countries, all of these big cities that are experiencing the problem with this so-called boogeyman. Okay, and so that started making me think again, about what really is a flu season. And I think about spores, for instance, and moss. And in the northern hemisphere, if you're lost out in the woods or whatever, it's kind of a rule of thumb. Find some trees and look for the moss. It'll be growing on the north side of the tree. Well, why is that? It's because the conditions are better there because of the less sun that it gets. Now, does that mean that there's no moss spores on the south side of the tree? Yeah, there's moss spores all over the place, but they need a certain environment to grow in.
Right.
And so, what this boogeyman really is, it's toxins in the system. And your body creates its own little soldiers to go out and nail these toxins. Okay. And remember, I showed a picture earlier of what this boogeyman looks like. Well, if you get in and start studying what these little soldiers are, it's that picture that I showed you yesterday. It's actually exosomes that are excreted by the cell. And these exosomes, it's kind of interesting when you look at different medical pictures and things like that. It's funny how it seems like they copied so many things on video games from real life, you know. And so these little exosomes, think about Pac-Man, Pac-Man running around, gobbling up all the dots. Well, uh, that's what these exosomes are doing. And those little dots that they're gobbling up are a little smaller than the other things that you see floating around in the system. And they are toxins that are excreted by bacteria. So my question really was, why are they going after the boogeyman, the V word, when they should really be looking at bacteria and toxins? Okay. Now, why do they think? Well, and let's take a look at what the exosome is. Remember that picture? Yep, same picture as the boogeyman. They're the same thing. That exosome and the virus are the same. And I think the reason why they think that, oh, this is our problem, that this so-called virus they think they found, this is the problem, is because it's got some of the toxin in it. Because it's going around and it's grabbing these toxins that are displaying themselves at kind of a particular time of the year. It's just kind of the way the body works. Our body works the same way, and the things in it work the same way as, say, for instance, those spores from moss on the north side of the tree.
Yeah.
And
Can
that,
you
that
explain to
really,
everybody real quickly what the process is? The exosome. What is that? What's going on there? Why does your body create exosomes? What's the process for that, and what does it have to do with, where you're mentioning here that this exosome looks just like this virus, so-called virus, this boogeyman.
right.
What's creating that in the body? Because basically, what you're saying here, as far as I can tell, is that this virus is actually part of our body's natural immune system. It's part of our body's natural defense system. It's literally something that is naturally in our body, and they've turned it into a freaking boogeyman that shut the world down. So, what can you explain to people what
Well,
the deal is with that?
what happens is that the cells in your body have contained within them these things called organelles, okay? And within these organelles are these exosomes. And when the cell detects that there's toxins floating around in its environment. It's like, the sirens go off, ding, 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 danger, Will Robinson, and they excrete, and they've caught it under a microscope many times where the cell excretes these exosomes. Now, here's the funny thing. It seems like everything they say is left is actually right. You know what I mean? And so they're also showing photos in reverse and saying, oh, look, the cells are being absorbed. They're absorbing these viruses. And it's like, well, that's a still shot. How can you tell people that? You know what I mean? Because that's all they can get really is still shots of it. What's happening is you can see stages where these exosomes are really being expressed in the cell, getting closer to the surface opens up, and it releases them, and you see what it looks like, and all of a sudden now you see other ones that have been released in the system by cells, and they're out there looking for things. Okay, and so that's the way they're basically the cleaners of the body. Um, the hydrochloroquine, okay, that's being talked about. It releases really, if it works in any way, what it's doing is it's releasing a lysosome, and lysosomes work the same way. They go and grab all the junk DNA that's floating around, the degraded proteins and things like that, and that's if it's working in any way, that's how it's working. But what it's doing is it just mimics what the exosome does when the cell releases it. And these exosomes, I don't want to get too technical on it, but each one isn't the same. They all have a certain duty. And so they've got markers that they're looking for, um, different toxins that they're looking for. So they're out there looking for a whole panel of things. And, I think if they came up with a vaccine or something that got rid of the exosomes, you probably wouldn't live very long. And if you did, it would be a pretty sick lifestyle, very sickly lifestyle. I hope that kind of explains how the body works with those.
Yeah. That's fascinating stuff, buddy. I mean, as far as our, this current situation, I've been telling people over and over again. I know you have too. That we're basically just being had here. This whole thing is literally a ginormous hoax and a monumental fraud. What's taking
Oh,
place here, and without government, who's going to go create things like this? It's like, who's going to pay somebody to be in a laboratory to try and weaponize a freaking virus or a bacteria or something like that? It's like no sane person would ever do something like that, but megalomaniacs are doing it constantly, and they have the ability to do it because they've got an endless supply of income that they can just keep on throwing money at things that are horrific. And what we need to do is we need to expose this stuff so that people understand what's taking place. And just for everybody that's out there on the live side, after this show's over, I'm going to put a link into the comments to a video by a Dr. Kaufman that Bryan shared with me, and we're gonna have a discussion, or I'm going to put that out there so that you guys can watch this video. It's about 40 minutes long, and he goes through and shows you this whole process of these exosomes and lysosomes and all that stuff, and how it's coming out of the body naturally. And it's really fascinating, you guys. You got to learn this stuff, and you got to get it out there, because if we have this information but we're not sharing it out, what good is it? What the heck good is it to have this information if we're not sharing it with people? And so,
absolutely.
that's why Bryan and Jerry and myself and other people are trying so hard to get this information out there, is so that it can get shared. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy to find out that this whole thing is, something in my gut told me from the very beginning that this whole thing is a fraud. And but as the doctors come out and the nurses come out, and the information continues to leak out, I'm realizing just how horrific of a fraud it really is. And so, this whole exosome thing is really quite fascinating. And yeah, so when we're all done, you guys can, get a really in-depth look at this from Dr. Kaufman. But yeah, so these exosomes are part of our body's natural defense system, and they look exactly like this virus. What what else do you have to expand on that
Well,
right now?
like I said earlier, this was going to all kind of circle right back to Dr. Fraudsey. Um, and if people need to think a little bit, use your head when you're presented with information. Don't just automatically assume that, I don't know how many people I've talked to about different things. They're like, well, I've never seen that on TV, or I was never taught that in school. And it's like, well, you know what? Go to your great oracle. Everybody's got the great oracle in their pocket. Go to your favorite search me engine because it searches you while you search it, and look up whatever you're looking for, and and a lot of times it's going to be buried 2 or 3 layers deep. You'll find it. And at the same time, I'm going to supply you with another link as well on Dr. Shi Li. Okay, and because people need to realize, and when I say think, here's an example of it. I mean, there's so much double speak going on, not just around this, but it's going on forever in political things and on the news. But like in this situation, you hear about mandated self quarantines. That is total doublespeak. What do you mean mandated self quarantine? There's a big difference between something being mandated and something being freely chosen. You know, I mean, come on. And the situation with Dr. Shi Li was that when she was doing these experiments, at the height of it, really, she had written 3 or 4 papers on it. Okay, this was done in uh, 2016, 2017. No, this was done in 2005, 2006, 15 years ago almost. This was done. So it took 15 years for there to be a leak of whatever she was working on when she was writing about it 15 years ago. I mean, people need to stop and kind of put two and two together. Does this really make very much sense? And when they got in and were really studying this, there's a Dr. James Weiler. I'm going to send you his link because I figured instead of sending 5 or 6 links talking about this topic, nobody wants to really go through that many links to look at information. Um, Dr. James Weiler did an article where he put like 4 or 5 links into it and showed actual evidence and the consensus of other doctors and things like that regarding her work. And he pretty much summed it up with one word: gibberish. He called it gibberish. And when I was looking at it, the first thing that came into my mind is, well, to keep this a family-friendly show, stuff made up, SMU, you know. And when I talked about these administrations and starting all these little different pet projects and stuff, they've got to make stuff up to research and look at, because that's how they're going to get federal funding. Oh, this is a really, they go and market this to Congress or whatever. This is an extremely important research. It needs to be done. Nobody's done it before. Um, by the way, we're going to need $10 million. Oh, okay, here you go. It's easy to give away other people's money, isn't it? But so that's what was happening with her. Originally with U.S. doctors, and then where it went to really being exclusively over in Wuhan. Now, when they were looking at the sequencing that she was working on, and like I said, this is going to circle right back to Dr. Fraudsey. They were looking at the sequences, the basic sequences of what she was studying. And with her going and looking at bats, the first thing she was looking for was SARS. People remember SARS. They remember MERS. Now we've got Corona. Those are all versions, supposedly, of Corona. SARS was severe acute respiratory syndrome. MERS was Middle East respiratory syndrome. Think about that one for a second. Middle East respiratory syndrome. Huh. Are they trying to make you afraid of a certain people? Just a
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Well, and you
Spanish
know what?
flu.
You know what? This goes back to swine flu as well. Okay, I know this was a number of years ago, but what was going on at that time? And everybody, the sad thing is everybody thinks locally. My dad used to call it the me culture. You know, everything is me, me, me. You know, everybody lives in their own little bubble. You've got to be able to get on the top of the mountain and see everything, look at things as a whole as to what's going on. And with SARS, I mean, not with SARS, but with swine flu, um, people remember that there was, I think, three main countries that were hit the hardest by it. One was Mexico. I think Canada got hit as well. But who else got nailed? China got hit. China got hit really hard. They said, I think they said they were losing like $5 billion a week or something like that from the loss of tourism. And it went on for about a month. Okay. Now, look at the bigger picture and what was happening worldwide is that at the same time, they were holding votes in international bodies, and they were having a vote as to whether or not internationally the U.S. could export its prepackaged foods and canned foods. And there was three countries that voted it down. Guess who they were? Mexico, Canada, and China. So, what was the swine flu? The swine flu is the same as what I call this. I call this class class double E rated terrorism, economic and emotional. That's exactly what it is. And, you know, people can go and do additional research into what happens when an economy is contracted, because that's one of the phases. Economies are the way at least this fraud economy is set up. It's set up to expand and contract, expand and contract. It puts everything out, then it sucks it all back in again. And this is just a big form of its contraction, is what's happening with this. Well, like I said, this was going to circle back, and I keep meaning to get to it. So they looked at the three sequences that she was studying, and what were they? One was SARS. Second was coronavirus, corona boogeyman. And the third one gets even more interesting. It was the GP41, which is a protein of HIV. Well, how did Dr. Fraudsi end up on the scene? Um, you know, we've gone through a situation bigger than this boogeyman before. And this would have been back in what, 2000, no, earlier, 1983, 1984, when the whole HIV pandemic came up. And the guy leading kind of the seat that fraud season now was a Dr. Kraus. Okay. Dr. Kraus, they had some serious problems with what he was saying and talking about the transmittability of HIV and this and that. And they were afraid of freaking everybody out. And so he kind of was ushered aside, and in stepped Dr. Fauci. Okay. The interesting thing, though, is Fauci didn't really step away from Kraus's position very much. They were even saying at that time that you could catch HIV through casual, regular contact with somebody. Um, Gosh, with as dangerous and horrible as HIV was, and remember at that time, we've got movie stars coming out. That's got it. You've got basketball players come out saying he has it. All these big popular, all these gods of the American public, all right, just like their god, U.S. Inc. But all these gods of theirs, these big talent people coming out saying, "Oh, I've got it," they're personalizing it. And what's happened today? You've got people today coming out, these big movie stars and stuff saying, "Oh yeah, I've got the corona. I'm going to self quarantine. You should do the same thing." You know what I mean? They're just replaying the whole game. But as dangerous as they made HIV sound back in 1983, 84, um, by all means, if anything, we should have been self quarantining then too. You know, that was way more dangerous with much less of a cure rate. In fact, at that time there was no cure for it, according to them. So I don't know. I think that this came along and was used to do economic things. I think it was also used because there's just been treaties signed for trade deals with China. Like I said, there's multiple reasons for things going on, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. Everybody remembers all of the protests that were going on in Hong Kong and scary scenes people were seeing from there. People don't realize that the Wuhan area has been protesting since 2017 because their god, China Inc., wanted to go and put like garbage disposal services. They want to put like an incinerator or something there in their province, and they were protesting it. They've been having serious protests. Well, think back to that story I told you a week or so ago about the expat in China that it was at nighttime, nobody on the streets, so he jaywalked. And before he hit the curb on the other side of the street, he got a ping on his phone from his bank saying that they had already deducted the amount for jaywalking. Okay? Now, what does that tell you? It tells you they've got their facial recognition down really, really good. Okay? Now, in the onset of this boogeyman in China, we were seeing photos of people being apprehended and supposedly taken to hospitals or whatever. And it was all under the guise of this was a medical emergency. Okay. Well, I think a lot of times, if you're watching TV, if you have a TV and you watch TV, try watching it with the sound off. Okay. Because
What was that you just said? Watching
try
it.
watching it with the sound off.
Okay.
Turn off the sound. Just watch the pictures. Because I was watching the pictures of these people being arrested in China, and it looked to me nothing more like a home invasion arrest. That's all it was. It didn't look like it was a medical situation. I didn't see them coming into their home with a gurney or anything like that. The only difference was that they were wearing face masks. Other than that, they were police and military coming in, and you could tell if these people were truly ill and that sick and almost on their deathbed and needed help, they would have been going to the hospital or whatever themselves and seeking care themselves. And they wouldn't have been, even when help came to them, they would not have been fighting that help off so horribly. And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh yeah, but you don't know. China's a communistic country, and they're horrible, and those people knew what was going to happen to them." Or da da da. I really don't agree with that scenario quite as much. And when I watched those videos, all I saw was people being arrested and detained. Okay. Now, like I said, they've been having the protests in Hong Kong. They've been having protests since 2017 in Wuhan. Okay. Just like that guy walking across the street, jaywalking, don't you think they knew who all those protesters were and where all those protesters lived at? I would just offer the possibility that they were going and detaining and arresting a lot of these protesters.
Yeah.
At the same time, where did the protests in Hong Kong go? They've disappeared. The people in Wuhan are no longer protesting this disposal dump there. Okay. Like I said, everything that happens is for multiple reasons. And, I think maybe China could have feared that these arrests or whatever, these mass arrests that they were doing, everybody wants to see the mass arrests here in America. Well, they were doing the mass arrests, I think, over there, only to the other side, to the good people. So I would strongly entertain that notion. That's exactly what we were seeing. And they were doing it under the guise of a medical emergency. And figured, oh, we'll just put on a face mask and yeah, we'll be all set. Because if that contagion was as bad as what was being said, they would have been going in there in their military or police uniforms just wearing a mask. They would have been wearing hazmat suits, you know?
Right.
People need to think about that. And at the same time, our government, I don't want to say our government, the government of the US Inc., I guarantee was not behind closed doors as afraid about this as you see in front of the microphone. And I think the best example of that can be given is they've touted how long this virus, supposedly, this boogeyman, can live outside the human body and what surfaces it can live on the longest. The surface they claimed that it could live on the longest was what? Paper. All right. So if we were so worried, if US Inc. was so worried about the transfer of this boogeyman all over the US, at the same time, you don't just shut down flights from Canada, but you shut down US mail. You shut down UPS. You shut down FedEx. If it can supposedly live on paper for so long, and you've got all of these possible pieces of boogeyman being sent all over the US from other countries, also, you would have shut that would have been the first thing you would have shut down. And that sacred cow was never touched. And so that told me, yeah, there's something really wrong here. And
That's a hell of a point, brother.
yeah.
That is a hell of a point. That's the first time I've heard anybody look at it from that standpoint. Because, amen. Go ahead, keep on going. This is
Well, no,
uh,
I'm just saying that, when they present things to us, we have to really stop and think about all the possible implications. And also think of like the trickle down effects of different things. Um, I'll tell you right now, I had a conversation a while ago with Walter Bryan. And he did the exposing the CAFR reports. And the statement he made to me was, everybody thinks that the banks run the world. And I would say that, everybody hears these different names of different families and things like that. Well, whoever it is that really runs the world, their name's not going to be out there. They're going to sit in the background. They don't want their finger pointed at them. They're going to sit in the background and let their minions do stuff for them and let people point at those minions and knock those minions out left and right, and they'll just replace them with somebody else as long as they stay safe. His Walter Bryan's statement to me was, it was not the banks that run the world. It's insurance. Insurance is what runs everything. And with thinking about that the other day, I went online and went to the Great Oracle and I started looking up insurance policy changes and their concerns, things they were talking about. And what's happened with this whole boogeyman is also fear that it could come back. All right. And one of the things that they've trying to dissuade people from is gathering in big crowds or any crowds. They pick the number 10, which I think is a reason for that as well. I'm not going to go into it, but which means they don't want people unifying. Like the conversation we're having right now, they don't want this conversation presented to 100 people that are together in the same room because, you know what, you very well might end up with a Bubba moment, where a couple guys get together and say, you know what, we need to physically take some action against what's being done to us. You know what I mean? So they're trying to avoid any protests and things like that. And there was a point I was going to make and it escaped me. Oh, I know what it was. Looking at insurance and things that they're going to start implementing is insurance for gatherings. I think if anybody's ever gotten married, you may know that if you want to rent a certain venue, that venue may require you to carry insurance. Okay. And it's so that if anything at their venue gets damaged or anything like that, or even if one of your guests gets hurt, falls down the stairs, you know what I mean? You've got insurance on it. Well, there's going to be insurance hikes now really going up on venues where there's multiple people gathered at. Whether you could say it's the mall, whether you could say it's casinos, conventions, things like that. And some of these insurance rates may purposely be so high that these venue operators can't afford to have these gatherings anymore. Think, for instance, about workout rooms. Okay, they're barely hanging on as it is. They're barely making money as it is. Well, now if they have to have their equipment at least 6 feet apart from each other piece of equipment to keep people distance, and they have to go and bring on more staff, and they have to pay for new cleaning supplies, extra cleaning supplies, and more labor hours because now somebody's got to go around and do a good wipe down on all those machines. And then at the same time, they paying a higher premium for the possibility of somebody claiming that they got sick from one of your employees. I, I think I saw somebody cough and I caught, the boogeyman from them. They're going to have insurance to cover their butt. So if the powers that be want to eliminate certain businesses, they can put the premiums, these expenses for insurance at a high enough level that it's going to just eliminate those businesses altogether, period. Now, think about this at the same time. You churches out there, you churches who have replaced your creator with the IRS because you are now formed under the IRS as a 501c3. That's what it says in your compact. It doesn't say you're formed under the creator. It says you're formed under the IRS. Well, if they turn around and say, yeah, we're going to have extra mandates for you since because you've got 500, 5,000 people all packed into church, every Sunday or every Wednesday, you've got to carry a venue insurance in case anybody gets sick. How many churches are going to be able to withstand that? Just something to think about. And I'll leave it with that.
Brother, that's some serious stuff. I mean, that's what I love about what we're doing right now. And quite frankly, my focus right now, and until this goes one way or the other, is to continue to bring people in here and expose this stuff, because there's only one way that we can win. I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it. There's only one way that we can win this battle, and that's to expose it. We can't win a fight against somebody when we don't even know who we're fighting against. We don't even know who the opponent is.
Let me leave you with something else. I want to bring something else up. I just happened to look down at the screen and saw me there, and or my image there, and the shirt I've got on says liability. All right, it's kind of a joke in a way, but it's not. But it's my way of giving public notice that I may be a liability to you. And let me give you an example of that. What it comes down to is knowledge. What you know can help you out so much. I don't know, was it Twain or whatever, Samuel Clemens, that said, it's not what we think we know is right, but what's just not so, so that's what gets you in trouble. A few years ago, my girlfriend's father was in the hospital. He was literally on his deathbed. He was so weak that you had to put your ear down and listen to him talk to try and make out what he was saying. He was that bad. But what he wanted to die at home, like most people do. He wanted to die at home, didn't want to die in the hospital. And he said that he was even being treated like crap by the people in the hospital. Okay. So I took a piece of paper and I grabbed a black magic marker and I wrote on it, notice, everyone conducting business in this room is under full personal commercial liability. And I went and I taped it up right above the hand sanitizer where all the nurses and doctors squirt their hand every time they walk in and walk out, which is just for show. Hand sanitizer, like for instance, you get like, this brand, I'll cover the name, it lasts 5 or 6 hours. Why are you squirting your hand when you walk in, squirting your hand when you walk out? That makes no sense. Um, but anyway, I put it up, and 5 minutes later or so, we left. We had something to go run and do. Girlfriend stayed there with her stepfather. And about 20 minutes later, I got a phone call. And she's like, Bryan, what does that note mean that you put up? I said, why? And she said, because a nurse went and got security, and security came in, they took the note down, and they said they were going to the legal department right now. I said, oh, good. Let them go to the legal department. She called me back about half hour later, and she said, Bryan, you won't believe it. I said, what? She said, they put the note back up. I said, oh, cool. She said, no, wait, there's more. She said, Dad's being released. He can come home. And that like brought a tear to my eye almost. The man was going to be able to go home and die at home the way he wanted to. Interesting thing happened though. He went home and he got better. I think he lived for almost 10 months more. He got better when he went home. And it's like Dr. Joe Wallach says, hey, you want to stay healthy? Don't go to the hospital. Period.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? One of my buddies was telling me I needed to go to the doctor the other day, and I was like, no, I don't go to doctors. If I've got an issue, I'm going to deal with it myself here at home. I'm not going to go to a doctor unless I break my leg or need to go have knee surgery again or something like that. I just like not a chance. So, you were talking a little bit earlier about how this whole Gengli, Gengli, how that circles back to Dr. Frodsky, or that's what I'm going to call him from now on, Dr. Frodsky, because he's helping this fraud just perpetuate across the globe. How does this all end up circling back to him?
Yeah, I thought I covered it. That maybe it didn't really stick out. When I talked about the three sequences that she was studying that they found, the one was SARS, the other was Corona, and the other one was GP41, which was a protein that is in supposedly HIV. All right.
For people, in fact, including myself, hang on one second, including myself, quite frankly, I got to say, I have no idea what HIV stands for. What does that stand for? You know?
Uh, Human immune virus or something like that. I don't know.
Human immune virus? Okay, well, that makes sense. I mean, yeah. That's why we supposedly can't cure it, is because it's immune to us.
Yeah, right. There you go. That's the way I've always thought of it. But then it was translated and said that HIV caused AIDS, which AIDS is the autoimmune defense system, okay, or syndrome rather. So, yeah, and wrapped right around that whole situation with HIV and it being the big scare, it was going to kill everybody, and these actors were dying from it and stuff like that. And they were saying that even casual contact, that came from Dr. Fauci. Casual contact might even be able to be transmissible. Well, he was at the center there of that boogeyman, and here he is at the center of this boogeyman as well. And the one supposedly attributed for releasing this, or accidentally, or whatever the case may be, is also a doctor working on the HIV. So
there
I just find that connection interesting.
Yeah. So yesterday on the show, when we were talking with Jerry, and Jerry's in the room with us here, he's just being shy or whatever, not letting us see him. We can just see his name. But anyway, yesterday you said that Gengli's research had been discredited or something like that. What were you talking about? And then I'd love to give Jerry an opportunity, if he wants to, if he has anything he'd like to add or whatever, because one thing about this is we're all on the same team here together. We're trying to flat out get the truth out there. And I know Jerry, I met Jerry because of Ed Griffin. I met you because of Ed Griffin. And, you know, we're all working together. We just want to try and help people put the pieces to the puzzle together so they can understand what the heck's going on. And if they can understand what's going on, then they have a chance of doing something about it. And so what's with the discrediting of her information? We were talking earlier about how I believe she's being thrown out there as the patsy of the situation. And, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Right.
So,
yeah, and then they tried to deflect it from her and saying that it came from that market, which it's now been found that market didn't even sell bats. Okay. It did sell seafood and sold pork and stuff. But it was actually, and the link that I said I was going to send to you from Dr. James Weiler, and all the information that he had gathered, and in looking at the sequences she was studying, and looking at the direction her research was going in, and the other number of doctors that said it's impossible to genetically modify a virus. And I think we're finding out why. The reason why it's what she claimed that she was doing was gibberish, like Wheeler said, Dr. Wheeler said, is because simply there's no such thing as a virus. It doesn't exist. What do exist are toxins that are released from bacteria, and then the exosomes that go and absorb those toxins. That's the process.
that is fascinating right there. There is no such thing as a virus. I can see a post coming up with that one, baby.
Yeah, right.
What I really want to be able to do is be able to substantiate that with information. And so this is really quite the blessing to have you on the show, and to be able to kind of pick your brain and learn about your research, so that we can get the information out there. Real quick here, hey Jerry, are you listening in, brother? So,
Oh, I'm here, I guess. I was trying to figure out how to make everything work here, and that's why I wasn't on. Now you got me. I just found my buttons. The buttons disappear unless you're pushing on them, so I'm having trouble with my tech here. So sorry about that.
no worries, buddy.
But,
Good to see that handsome.
whatever will-
Still got your beanie cap on, keeping warm. Good for you.
Yeah, I'm out in my off-grid cabin, so I'm not here, but I'm trying to get the camera set up so there we go. That's a
Well,
little better.
I know you've just basically been patiently waiting in, and I'm wondering if you
There's a couple of
have
questions.
any comments.
A couple of questions. Yeah, well, no, just a couple of questions for Dan. It's Dan, right? Am I got that right?
Bryan.
Okay, Brian. I'm sorry. Okay. We've got this documentary came out a couple of days ago that said we have these, bioscientists, whatever this woman was. I'm sorry, I can't remember the names, but they went back to this woman who they were interviewing, who was obviously highly advanced in her experience and knowledge about this. And she said that whatever this pathogen is, may have been referring to the virus or something else, that they had done retroactive traces on it. They had done retroactive studies on it. And she said, by breaking it down, you could see there's no question whatsoever that this was a genetic recombination of, both the bat virus and the human receptor, or the part of something that would attach to the human receptor. So in other words, this was contrived and manufactured to allow infection of human beings with bat virus, bat something, and that infection would be transmitted now by humans. That was what they attached to this bat virus, was the thing that allowed humans to pass it from human to human. And this was, a top scientist, in the area talking about that this had been done, and it had been done by Gengli. And, Gengli had done public presentations about it. They had video of it. They had a record of this whole thing. She talked about having done this. And the only thing that they couldn't find was anybody who could explain why you would want to do that, other than to weaponize biology in order to be a force multiplier, to bring the United States down to a level where the Chinese would have some hope of competing geopolitically with us. They identified our military as being far superior to theirs, and they this was the speculation of the or the reporting of the documentary that China had identified our military as being superior to theirs, and they saw that they had no choice but to go to alternative tactics. We use weather to attack other countries. There's reports we can use things to cause volcanoes or earthquakes or this or that or tidal waves, and this was a way to take America down. And in fact, there's nothing that China could have done, possibly, imaginably, to damage the United States economically more than a countrywide, in fact, global lockdown, where people willingly walked off their jobs, willingly closed their businesses, willingly took our economy ultimately down to third world status. This is the damage of this lockdown and this whole fiasco is going to be felt for decades. And this is a historic event where you've never been able to, with a simple PR move like this, to reduce a country like the USA as much as it has been reduced economically. This is phenomenal. That the powers that be, Trump, whoever, couldn't see this coming and couldn't realize that this was damage being rendered upon us. And Dan will have a response to that, I'm sure. But this was not something that any sane country would do to itself. And it looks like a great tactical success on the part of China right now.
Yeah, well, yesterday we kind of talked about that part of the equation. Obviously it is what's going on, but the simple fact of the matter is how are we going to expose it so that we can stop it from getting us into this world currency, this digitization of all of our lives and all that kind of stuff? Because at this point, it's obvious what's happened. Now it's a matter of what do we do about it? And, so I'd like to refer back to Bryan here and see if he's familiar with this documentary. And I'd also like to ask you, Jerry, if you have access to that documentary, if you wouldn't mind please getting it out to me so that I can get it and get it into the comments so that the people that are going to be seeing this, that they can actually get that documentary. They can go check it out. If Bryan hasn't heard of it, whatever, he can look at it. And because I know we're all trying to find the truth here. We need to know what the truth is, plain and simple. And once we know what that truth is, we got to get it out there. We have got to get it sharing. We've got to get it going viral, as they say, And so, what do you have to say about that, Bryan, as far as, what do you know about that? What information have you been able to uncover, if any?
Yeah, that documentary, I believe, was put out by Epoch Times, EPOCH Times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know they've been working on this for quite a while. I mean, and that's what the lab there in Wuhan was working on. It was weaponizing things, medically weaponizing things. That's what they do there at Fort Detrick, also in Maryland. But what's really being put out, and they'll say virus because people think contagious and stuff like that, without saying the truth, which is we're putting out a toxin. We're putting a toxin into your environment, and it can harm you. Again, we're experimenting on you. You think about a cat when it catches a mouse. Does it eat it right away? Sometimes it doesn't even eat it. It ends up killing it, but it just bounces it around, throws it around for a while. And that's kind of what the system is doing right now. And like I said in the beginning, they always say they're playing rope-a-dope with you. One thing's happening when it's really something else. And we see the biggest thing that this is influencing is financial. Well, last October, I recognized what was going on with the banks in US Inc. financially. And it was really scary because about the second week of September of last year, the banks, because banks have to close out, they have to balance their books, come out to zero every day. Okay. I won't get into that. But so what the banks were doing all along is that banks would give each other overnight loans back and forth so they could balance out at the end of every business day. Well, come September of last year, the banks weren't having as much faith in each other. And so they were starting to charge 10%, 15% interest on these overnight loans. These are called repo loans. Okay. And they couldn't afford these repo loans. They couldn't afford to pay 15% on millions of dollars maybe overnight. So they went to the Treasury and they said to the Treasury, hey, we're going to go under. You've got to take care of the repo loans for us, because we're not helping each other out. And so the Treasury has been dumping trillions so far now into the banks since last September. Now, what scared me about that was I remembered what happened back in 2008. Okay. Everybody remembers the TARP bailout. It was roughly $700 billion was given to the banks. And everybody freaked out about giving the banks $700 billion. Well, right now, there's been trillions dumped into them. But here's the thing. What happened about 2 months after the TARP bailout? That was the housing bubble burst and the economy went south. They had an economic collapse right after all that money got pumped into them. So when I saw this money being pumped into the banks starting in last September, which it was supposed to end on October 15th, and it didn't. It's still going on today. When I saw that happening, I said, and I told everybody around me, I said, wait, 2020, we're going to have an economic collapse. And I think that is really what was either happening or they're trying to prevent from happening. And they're using the guise of the boogeyman to cover that up. That's my opinion.
That's exactly what Jerry pointed out in his little 16-minute expose, which I love. I got to tell you again, Jerry, I love that video that you did because literally in 16 minutes, you put out the basics of what many people, including ourselves, are taking an hour and a half to do, 2.5 hours to do. You basically spelled it out in 16 minutes. That's why I was so pissed off when it got removed because
JJ, I just want to mention as well, people go and check out the information from Jerry Day. Okay. JERRYDAY. He's put out some great info. He's got an excellent website out there, whether it's talking about smart meters or just how the system is structured in general. Jerry's done some good work, and I really would recommend it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I as well. I think everybody should be hooking up with Jerry and learning about him. It's kind of like Sam Tran. I always recommend to every guest that comes on the show, I recommend that they friend up with Sam Tran, make sure that they send him a message and let him know that they found out about him from the Con Family Show, because that way he will accept their friend request, because he's probably got 5 or 6 people sitting in there who. What's that?
I'm sorry, this is Jerry. I want to go back to Bryan. Thank you for that, Bryan. And I'd like to know, you really do have some very good information. And if there's anything you could share with us about where you go and how you dig that up, that would help us. But, it may be your trade secret, and that's cool. But I think you have some very good insight on how all this is connected. Do you have anything to share about how you access that information?
Yeah, I've got a couple different things that I do, and the first thing I do is and I'm not trying to sound crazy here. I use my head, and I'll have like weird phrases or weird ideas that pop in my head. It's kind of like, what if? And so I'll go to one of the great oracles and start doing a search and go, oh, there's a reason why somebody put that thought in my mind. You know what I mean? But there's also some good resources. I've got a small Facebook group that I made nothing but for like putting resources in, and it's called Unreported Exiting MSM. And I think at the header for it, at the announcement, I've got a list of about 5 different resource links of people that dig up information. And let me tell you something. These are not necessarily mainstream. They're not. These are maybe third or fourth tier people, um, but they've got the best resources for digging up information and digging up research. And the reason why they're at third and fourth tier levels is because the system is going to give us our first tier and second tier people, whether it's in the truth movement, whether it's on television. Those A lot of these people are planted there on purpose. There's some people that are very, very big in the truth movement, and with some of the things they talk about, it's like, why didn't they ever get taken down during any of these purges or anything? I'll stop and think about it. Some of these people are allowed to be there or placed there by the same system to keep a control factor going, to keep a balance of two sides going, same as Democrat Republicans. Um, One of the resources that I use and follow is Corey's Digs. Corey's Digs is excellent because the research that she does, and she supplies you with the tools, which I show as well. She supplies you with the tools that you can use to research different things. And but what she researches isn't the stuff that is mainstream in, say, the truth movement or whatever, or did Epstein really violate children? Or no, she goes 5, 6, 7 layers underneath that. It gets to the really deep stuff. You know what I mean? So, and those are the kind of people I like to follow.
And so, just because Jerry wasn't in here at the very beginning when you mentioned that, you're not a doctor, you're basically like a chronic researcher. you know?
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something. When I mentioned, a certain thought would come to my mind. Probably the biggest discovery I made on how things really worked came from my noggin. And I did something very simple. I went to the Great Oracle and I put in attorney's best kept secret. And only one thing popped up. And it was a gentleman giving a speech related medically, but it goes for everything. And he was talking about private associations. And while I was listening to him, I remembered reading Carol Quigley. And Carol Quigley talked about circles within circles or rings within rings. And I really wasn't quite sure what he was talking about. But in listening to this gentleman talk about private membership associations, I was like, oh my God, we've got the Housing Association. So I went online, went to the Great Oracle and started looking some more. We've got Judges Association, Clerk of Courts Association, Defense Attorneys Association. We know there's the Police Officers Association. We've got all these little associations out there. And like Quigley said, it wouldn't matter if one of these circles get taken down because they're all mingled in with the other circles. They all make up a whole. And when I discovered that, that really shined a light to me on how this world is really operating, what is controlling what. It doesn't matter if, say, for instance, they push Gates out of the circle of people making decisions or whatever, because he's got other people that are involved with a dozen other organizations that he's affiliated with that are still within that circle of people making decisions and keeping the same theme alive, keeping the same idea alive.
So I want to go back, if I could, real quick, JJ, on something Bryan said. That insurance thing is at least as big as Bryan says. I would say bigger. They can control you. It's sort of like when they can insure things, whether it's public insurance, you mean some sort of medical insurance, or whether it's any kind of private insurance. As soon as they come in and they say, okay, you have to have insurance for all your guests. And oh, by the way, you have to widen your stairway. And by the way, my cousin is a contractor and he'll do that for you. In other words, you can see what this kind of control does. You got insurance that says, you got to do this, and it's going to cost you that. And, you have the mayor of New York saying, oh, we're going to outlaw soda pop now because we're having to pay medical health care bills for people. And, there's a lot of obesity. And so we'll do that by controlling everyone's behavior. And that way we'll save a lot of money on our insurance. And, everybody will keep paying for insurance, but there won't be any claims. So it'll be all profit. Now, this insurance thing, and I have a very good friend who's an escrow agent who said it's all about insurance. It's like Walter Bryan. He says insurance is the biggest scam ever. I had a house where I had title insurance, and I'm buying this house. I have to pay $1,200 for title insurance. And I go to the escrow guy and I said, what is this for? And they said, well, that's title insurance. It's on every sale. Every sale. And what if I want a different title insurance company? No, we have to use this one. Why? Well, this is the one we always use, and they got the in on this. So this is the title insurance company we have to use. Okay, so I give this title insurance $1,200, and I'm wondering why. And then I find out there was a tax problem with the property or something, and I went back. Yes, it cost me some money. I don't know what it was. I went back to the title insurance, and I said, okay, we had a title problem. This wasn't disclosed in the sale, and now I need a reimbursement for this. I'm going to file a claim. And they go, oh, no, we don't cover anything related to taxes. I'm sorry, sir. And then I look at the exclusions, and they really don't cover anything. And I was not insured. The bank was insured. They say you file a claim because you're not the bank. The bank requires the title insurance, and you're not the valid claimant on this. And I said, I'm the homeowner, I'm the purchaser. I paid for the insurance. They say, yeah, but it's for the bank. You're paying this for the bank, and it's the bank that's insured. And so the bank didn't suffer a loss, and your losses, that's too bad. So you want to talk about a scam, and money disappearing down a black hole. Imagine every single sale of every property going on, paying $1,200, maybe sometimes $5,000, changing hands, going to this title insurance nonsense. So that's just one example, and so insurance comes in, and they say, oh, you got to pay us this protection money in case somebody gets hurt, so we'll protect you and we'll pay you back for it. And by the way, since we're insuring it, now we're going to control how you run your business. We're going to control how you do things because we're taking the liability here. Well, they're not taking any liability. I mean, if you do the math, the claims that insurance companies pay out, this applies to auto insurance, everything, any kind of insurance you can name. Why do you think they build the tallest buildings in the middle of every city and have their insurance logo on the top of that building? Why do you think? It's because they've got so much money that they don't have to pay back out in claims. They don't know what to do with it. They're collecting assets with it. So I just want to support what Dan was saying about insurance, and maybe that triggers Dan off. I'm sorry, Brian. Brian, sorry. It's I've got my brain working here. But I'm sure Brian can come back. That probably triggers some things Brian could help us with that he's found out about on the insurance side.
Yeah, that's just basically what I was looking at was, with knowing that information from, Walter Bryan and having been told that, start looking at this whole boogeyman situation from an insurance standpoint. And then when I started looking at venue insurances and started seeing, the trickle down and the implications of what could very well and probably will happen with insurance due to this, because, everybody out there, whenever anything happens, the first instinct is, how can I make money off it? And I guarantee that when it comes to any damage or harm being done or anything like that, your insurance companies are the first ones in line right there going, oh, we got to be able to make a buck off this. Number one, everybody's afraid. So, okay, we've got the advertisements already done for us. The brainwashing's already done. Now all we have to do is just implement the policies. And so I would recommend people to look into what's happening. And I'll tell you what, some of the things that are so dry to look into because for instance, transfer of data and knowledge. I have sat and listened to hours and hours of lectures and conferences between companies and like LexisNexis and their fear of liability for transferring information around and stuff like that. And some of this stuff is really dry and hard to listen to, but you got to listen to it and listen between the lines. Maybe go online and find some of these conferences for insurance companies. Hear what their real concerns are. Hear what their real goals are. Because they're not going to say it in the newspaper. You've got to kind of listen to their backroom dealings a little bit.
So, one more point I was going to make, what Bryan was talking about earlier, where you was talking some about mainstream media. I have a friend who's sort of a very hip guy on psyops and all these things the government does and how they control us. And the example would be the term conspiracy theorist. That was a term promoted by the CIA in order to discredit their opponents. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. So simply by owning a phrase, he discredited an entire movement of truth. And he came up with a idea. We've all been using the name mainstream media. And mainstream media, the term mainstream kind of lends credibility to it. It's the stream, it's the thing. Okay, he said, no, it's puppet media. It's puppet media. They're just puppeting what they're told to say, which is actually far more accurate. And if people don't understand what you mean by puppet media, you can say puppet mainstream media, but to put the word puppet on media and do just what the CIA did is start to characterize something in a way where people start to get an idea about it. And in this case, it's true. The conspiracy theorist idea was to discredit. But in this case, we're discrediting the media because we're being more accurate about what they're really doing. So use the word puppet mainstream or puppet media. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And for those that don't know, I mean, we've heard this said a lot that the CIA threw that phrase out there. If people go and read the report that was written on the JFK assassination, that term conspiracy theory came from the title of chapter 6 of that report. That's when it was introduced to people. So that anybody that thought anything different than the regular narrative about that association, then they were using that term right there, conspiracy theorist. And that was kind of its birth. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
So, hey, Bryan, I want to bring something up here. We've been going for about an hour and a half, and so I want to try and, I'd love to have you back on again here as soon as possible, because quite frankly, until this whole thing is over with, I'm pretty much trying to focus on this and exposing it, because I truly believe that the best way to deal with this is to expose it. When evil men and women conspire, good men and women must associate, and we must get the truth out there, and we must try to share it out as far and wide as possible. And people know this is the Kong Family Show, and that's what I'm mostly interested in, and I believe it has a part to play in all of this. But ultimately, right now, we've got something really, really horrific going on right now that we need to solve the issue. And, like I always say, it doesn't do us any good to put out what the problems are if we don't have some solutions for people to follow, from things that, even Ed Griffin in his Creature from Jekyll Island, the end of the book, the last chapter is a realistic scenario. And, what we can do, we have to provide solutions. And so, Bryan, yesterday we kind of talked to Jerry about what his ideas of solutions are and got that out there. And I'd like to, finalize this thing today by hearing what you think. What do you think? What are we going to do about this?
I think the whole situation is really, at this point, too big for anybody to really do anything about. I think you have to recognize it for what it is. I mean, to me, some people have said to me, "Oh man, don't you get freaked out though? Don't you get worried and upset by knowing some of these things?" And to me, it's like, no. To me, it's empowering, because it's nice to know how and why something happens instead of just being blind to the truth of what's going on all around you. And to me, knowing the correct information is step one. But what we really have to do, I think, is we have to come together collectively and uplift each other, help each other. I'll tell you what, right across the canal from me, okay, there is a family where I could tell the daughter and her children had moved in shortly after this whole situation started. I don't know if she lost her husband or a job or whatever the case may be. But I've watched the personalities in that home because you can hear everything across the water. I've listened to the conversations evolve to where they're about ready to have a knockdown, drag out fight. You know what I mean? We need to be uplifting each other and being positively with each other. And it's scary that right now there's so many marriages that are falling apart and families that are falling apart because they're all stuck together. If anything, they should be enjoying their time together, and to me, that really is very disheartening when it comes to looking at the mental health of e pluribus unum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we really need to just start talking with our neighbors, and saying, you know what, we know right now, we have now learned who we can't rely on. So what we have to do is start forming bonds and learning who we can rely on.
Yeah, amen, brother. And one thing that I was telling you this morning, that I was up till 2:30 this morning talking with a friend of mine that I haven't talked to for quite some time, and he was telling me that he he basically doesn't care. He doesn't want to share the truth. He just wants to like stick his head in the sand and act like nothing's happening. And I had to take him back to where we first met 20 years ago and the conversations that we had that day. And I mentioned to him something that right now, this one statement from Robert Welch, who, for people out there who don't know who Robert Welch was, he was the founder of the John Birch Society. He was the guy who developed the sugar daddy and the sugar babies. And he's the guy who came up with the idea of covering stuff in chocolate to preserve it. He basically came up with the chocolate bar, the candy bar. And back in 1958, he made a statement that has always stuck with me throughout all these years. When I first read that statement 27 years ago, he said this. He said, "Towards the final days of this battle, the conspiracy, in order to consolidate its powers, is going to have to run naked through the streets, exposing itself. And this is going to be our window of opportunity to awaken the American people, to get them to awaken the American people to a sense of their awful situation and get them to join us in our epic undertaking." And I keep thinking about that, and I gave that back to Nat again, because he remembered the whole naked through the streets thing, because everybody knows about the emperor being naked and the little boy seeing him and, hey, where are everybody? Oh, such beautiful clothes, right? But he didn't remember the last part of that statement. And after I mentioned that to him, I told him, dude, the window is wide open right now. It is wide open. People are actually concerned. People are looking for answers. They're wondering what in the hell is going on here, and they want answers. They want solutions. And so I think right now it's because I'm an optimist. I'm not a defeatist. I believe in what Robert Welch talked about. And I think the way that he went about things is the reason why he didn't get killed. And he basically drove himself to death trying to expose this horrific conspiracy of evil people and provide a method to be able to work against them and turn this around and rout them. He always said that we need to rout this conspiracy. And the only way we can do that is with truth and knowledge. And, so for me, it's like right now that window is wide open. and the wind's blowing both directions, and which direction is it going to blow? And right now we've got people saying that, we got FEMA agents saying that there's going to be this world currency, this digital currency that, if you want to be involved with it, you're going to have a vaccination, and, you're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do that. Well, that's always been my greatest fear looking at this whole situation over all these years, is that, are we going to go to that? Something that will be 1,000 times worse, like you were talking about, the dude in China that's walking across the street in the middle of the night with nobody around, and all of a sudden, by the time he gets to the other side, his phone's going, "Oh, you've just been docked points for jaywalking," and like, seriously, is that better for us? Is that what people want? They gotta understand what's coming, and that there is a possibility of turning it around, but it's not like you and I and Jerry, we can just turn this all around and stop it from going the direction it's going. We need a mass awakening of people. We need people to be sharing the truth and talking about the fact that if this goes to the global currency, we're all screwed. If the people in China are screwed. They have this whole thing all set up. They have the whole thing. They can't fart without their government smelling it, and then taking points out of their freaking credit score for farting when they're not allowed to do that or whatever. I mean, I'm just being a little facetious there, but guys, we've got to. This is my thought process, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we got to expose this, man. We got to show people that there's a solution that they can work towards, that they can do. And I want to, are we going to go to the bartering that you talked about yesterday? Are we going to go to promissory notes? Or, and it seems to me the best solution really is to go back to the gold standard, and then make, like Ron Paul always talks about, make currency competitive again. Where people can use whatever kind of currency they want to use. They can get into whatever associations they want to get into as far as, how they go about getting their goods and services. We got to get rid of this whole monopoly that is the Federal Reserve mechanism, that now their plan is obviously to make it a world Federal Reserve with just a digital currency that they can create on a computer screen. Hell, they don't even need printing presses anymore. They can just shut those down. They don't need to spend the money. They can just go total, it's crazy.
Hey, JJ? Yeah, it's Jerry. Just my phone is about to run out of power, but I just want to make one final point before I lose you. And the question is, what do we do? And, of course, we can all advocate, and we can all try to join groups, and we can stick our necks out. But at the very minimum, it's information and defiance. At the very minimum, for every individual, collecting information, looking for information, searching for it the way Bryan does, finding good sources, tapping into them regularly, going back, improving on that. So improve information. That's something we all can do. And defiance means you're going to find out stuff that's going to hurt you, and that people are coming after you, and people are taxing you, and people are exploiting you. So if you don't have a sensibility of defiance, of something, of thinking for yourself, and like you say, we're going to try to come up with some way to exchange gold. We're going to try to come up with some way to borrow. It's like, I'm going to talk to my friends about how do we do this. We're heading for this cashless society. We're going to be totally trapped in a surveillance and tax bubble, and we got to get out of this, and we got to create that for ourselves. So it's two things: information and defiance. And defiance is no longer a bad thing. Defiance is necessary for us to preserve our rights and survival and whatever. So those are the two things that we can all do: information and defiance. And my phone may crap out, so been great to talk to you guys. Great information. Thanks for what you and Bryan are doing, JJ.
Thanks, Jerry.
I love it, Jerry. Thank you so much, buddy. God bless you, and keep
Thank
up
you.
all the great work, and really appreciate you being here today and yesterday. And you know, if you have anything, that you think needs to be shared out, you know, anything that comes up, any new developments, anything that can help with the cause of exposing what's going on, please reach out, and you know, let's get you back on. Let's talk about it. Let's get it up there. Let's get it out there. Let's share it far and wide. Let's do whatever we can. You know, that's all we can do at this point. We still have the ability to disseminate information, like you said, and we still have the ability to defy these POSs, you know. And so I'm all about it. I've been defying these buggers ever since I first read the book Shadows of Power, and you know, that changed my life forever, and it just keeps on keeping on. And so, you know, same thing with you, Bryan. I'm really looking forward to the things that we can put out there and the message that we can share, so that, you know, because this right here that we're doing right now, it has the potential to go all over the world. Right now, we have people all over the country. We have people from up in Canada that are truth seekers, that want to know what's going on. And you know, so hopefully this information is going to get shared far and wide, and people are going to pay attention to how they're being had. I don't think there's really anybody out there who likes being lied to, that likes being cheated. And, you know, for me, I think that's the most important part right now, is to expose the fraud, that we're all being frauded. We're all being had. We're all being scammed. We're, you know, whatever adjectives you want to use to describe it. And so, you know, Bryan, one last little part of this meeting today is, I want you to give out whatever information you would like to give to people, because there might be people that watch this and they're like, who is this Bryan Parker dude? How do I get a hold of him? I like what he's saying. I'd like to, you know, conglomerate with him and work with him and learn from him, and, you know, get information from him and learn what, you know, what I can do, whatever, you know, just like with Jerry yesterday. I'd love to give you the opportunity to give out whatever contact information you'd like to give out, so that people that hear this as time goes by can reach out. And so, you know, what do you have to say as far as contact information, and then any last message that you'd like to give to our audience before we head out of here and get on our way with the day?
Absolutely. As far as contact information, my name is Bryan Parker, and that's with a Y, Bryan. And I've got some things that I've written on WordPress. And so if you look up WordPress, just Bryan Parker, Tactical Sovereignty. Same thing on Facebook, Tactical Sovereignty, Administrating the Estate. That's two places where you can find me at. I've got others, but I'm not going to overburden people with a whole bunch of stuff. But, you know, I'd like to say as well, as you talked about this being spread around, I had a contact last night from somebody from France, and they're saying how they were going to share this, you know, in their country. And people need to realize, right now we're seeing something that's happening, you know, across the globe, and that's not rare. When I first started researching things, I was researching bankruptcy of the U.S., and I saw that in the early 30s, Australia was going through the same thing. Canada was going through the same thing. Same exact language being used and discussing their federal government. It's like, whoa, you know, we got to realize things aren't local. This is all big. Anyway, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. I really appreciate you coming in here, Jerry. I'm really glad that you were able to jump in today. You know, Rodgar, Rachel, Paul, Stephanie, Brandon, Dan, Marilyn, just so appreciative of you guys being here, trying to learn. And you know, I want to end, I'm going to be ending these shows from now on with a little prayer, because I don't think we can do this without help from our Creator, much like our founders. You know, they were very much into that. And you know, so I want to end with a little bit of a prayer, and then also the typical of what we always end with, which is trying to end with a little bit of fun. But Dear Lord, I want to ask your blessing once again. We're definitely in the middle of some very trying times, and we need your help. We ask that you can help the people that are out there struggling, help them find the way, help them discern what's going on. Help them to understand that the solutions that are being parroted out there to them are indeed not the solutions. They're more of a trap. And that's help us to be able to get that information out there, to be able to reach into people's hearts and reach into their minds, and do it with love and do it with kindness, and be able to help them understand that there is something they can do. The powers that be that are doing this, they want people to believe that there's nothing they can do. And help us to help them understand that there is something they can do, that we do have power over this situation, that it is not over with. They want us to believe that it's all over with, that, we've seen it, that it's, nothing's ever going to go back to normal again. Nothing is ever going to be the same again. Nothing is ever going to be the way it is or whatever, that they're acting and trying to get people to think that it's already lost, that it's already done. And Lord, we know that it isn't done. It isn't done. We need your help. We need you to help us reach hearts and minds so that we can get this problem solved, that we can bring love and life back into the equation, that we can rout these evil people behind the scenes that most people don't even know about. Please help us to share this information out there day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. And we ask all these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So you guys, thank you so much for being here. We are the Khan family. We're here to change the world. And we're starting out by doing it with our own worlds, by looking in the mirror. I say it every day, get out there, change the world, starting with your own, because you take care of yourself first, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. You can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself first. So get out there, change the world, starting with your own. And of course, do not, right now especially, this is important, you guys, you can't forget your hugs, because you're not allowed to do this anymore. You can't hug people, you can't shake their hand. So you know what you need to do? You need to give yourself a big old hug. And do not forget your hooty hoo.
Hooty hoo.
Yeah, there you go, Corolla. Bless your heart. If you need a boost of energy, kids, I'm telling you, this works. You need a boost of energy. You're feeling a little bit down. Go outside and scream into the air. And you'll be amazed at how good that feels. Just so you know what hooty hoo is, it's a verbal hug. That's what it is. So if you can't give somebody a hug, you can tell them hooty hoo, and they'll go, "What the heck? Yeah, okay, I just gave you a hug." So, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I'll be back in here again tomorrow with more information. Bryan, if you wouldn't mind, and also Jerry, if you have the information about that documentary,
I'll go look for that. I'll go look.
Fire that over to me so I can throw it into the description of this, because it is something we talked about today. So I'd love to throw that in there so people can go look, so they can go watch
No,
it.
On my computer, do you have an email address for me?
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have it.
I don't do much on my phone. I'm a no RF guy, so I don't do a lot on my phone. So if you have an email address, I could send you links if I can find that.
Okay. Yeah, I actually got emails from you, and I fired back to them on email.
Okay. That's right. We got an exchange there. All right. So that's where you can look for stuff for me, and I will look for that documentary right now.
Perfect. Yeah, that would be great, because I want to get that out in the comments to the live show on Facebook, and then I also want to put it in the descriptions when it gets uploaded to YouTube. And my plans are to upload them also to BitChute and
Right.
probably even Bryan, just so that they're out there in multiple locations. And that way, from learning what happened with your video and watching how that got shut down, I was like, I got to make sure to get these things out there in different areas so that these people just shut things down on us and just shut the truth out because they decide that we're putting out too much of it. And
Right.
so, yeah, if you can put that out there, I'd sure appreciate it. And then, Bryan, the information that you had from Dr. Weiler, if it's possible for you to be able to get that out so people can look at that, you can put it into the comments, and then I can get it and put it in the description as well. And, hey, if we've got good source material, we've got good stuff that people can dig into that want to, hey, let's give it to them. And let's, they don't need to take our word for it. Go listen to what the docs are saying. Go listen to, what the people with the alphabets behind their name what they're saying about it. And, let's put it out there. Let people, encourage people to get after it and learn and see what the truth is. Because I believe the truth is that the truth shall set us free. So let's get it out there. So God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here. And, really appreciate you guys. Love you so much, and look forward to the next meeting. So
Thank you, JJ. Thank you.
you're welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you, guys. Everybody be blessed.
Give your husband a big hug for me, Corolla. Love you
I
guys.
will do.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye.
Make it a great one.
And then